Welcome to Loremen, a podcast about local legends and obscure curiosities from days of yore. I'm James Shakeshaft.
And I'm Alasdair Beckett-King.
And Alasdair, I have got one of the most excellently titled episodes of recent times. And we've had some good titles.
Yes, that's quite a boast, sir.
Yeah, well, you'll see when it comes to the scoring section, and you score me highly, because it is Haunting Houses.
Ooh. Ooh. What does it mean?
Well, have a listen. Alasdair Beckett-King.
Yes, James Francis Shakeshaft.
Effing Shakeshaft, that's right.
Is that? Did I get your middle name right?
You did, yes.
Oh, that's got to be top friend points for knowing that, or
That is
guessing that
very good.
accurately. Yeah, wow.
Alasdair James Beckett-King.
Yes, correct. Double high fives.
I nearly said Alasdair James Shakeshaft. And
yeah, my parents wanted to call me that.
they named you after Donkey. Donkey Shakeshaft, for listeners, is my great-grandfather.
Go and do your reading in the previous episodes if you didn't understand that.
Well, Alasdair, boy oh boy, I've got some spooky stuff for you today.
Thank you.
You know, on the podcast, we've talked about haunted houses.
Many times.
And you know, on the podcast, we've talked about dream houses. And I don't mean that in like location, or, you know, love it or list it type thing.
The Barbie sense of Barbie Dream House, is that what we're talking?
Literal dream houses, houses that people have dreamt about and then seen in real life, and there's been some sort of...
Oh, I don't think I've heard of that.
But we've talked about it literally on the podcast.
In that case, I have heard of that.
You've definitely heard it. Whether you've listened is a different thing. But I didn't bring you here to talk to you like a supply teacher.
No, didn't you?
No, not today.
I am chewing, by the way. Are you concerned?
This is your own time you are wasting.
All right, fine. I don't respect you because I've just met you and we have not developed a rapport.
Could you write your name down on this map I have made of the desks, and then I will know who you are? And could you not write a silly name, please? No, I want to talk to you about a kind of a combination of those things, the spooky things, not the like TV program type things.
Yeah.
Not the property TV show type things. Alasdair, I want to talk to you about haunting houses.
Haunting houses. Great hook. I've no idea what that means, but I'm intrigued.
I'm not sure it's particularly accurate, but it just sounds good. And I think I'm going to even use it as a category.
I was going to say that's got episode title potential.
We're going to talk about the haunting houses of the Southwest, even.
Wow.
To kind of, you know, make it a little bit more relatable.
Why is that more relatable?
I've got no idea. I don't know why I think any of the stuff we talk about is relatable.
Hey, listen, you like things from the Southwest, right? That's everyone's favorite direction. Just super relatable.
I want to talk to you about ghost houses.
Tell me about these haunting houses, James.
Right. Well, we're going to be meeting some friends of the show on the way. Don't you worry. Because I got some new books recently by the authors of Mysterious Britain, aka Janet and Colin Board, who have written, you know, such tomes as Mysterious Britain, The Secret Country, subtitle More Mysterious Britain.
Oh, they really revealed the secret quite early on there.
Yeah.
About which country it is.
A Guide to Ancient Sites in Britain, Alien Animals, crammed with arcane information not only on BHMs, big hairy monsters, but black dogs, lake monsters, giant birds, and other remarkable manifestations. And such books as the Bigfoot Case Book, a mysterious tall hairy man beast. It's so relatable.
So is that... Sorry, are you seeing yourself? Is it like looking into a book mirror?
It's like reading a blurb mirror.
The Bigfoot casebook sounds like something you would have got in like a Filofax, like a fun fax as a kid.
Yeah, yes, definitely.
There's pictures of him to colour. There's a word search.
And all the words are foot.
Yes, there's probably a Bigfoot has got his hair tangled and only one of the hairs leads to a pie, whatever a Bigfoot eats. Can you help
Was
him?
it fava beans? Or was that's
Fava
the skunk
beans, yes.
ape, wasn't it?
I mean, let's not split hairs. They're all the same.
And as people who follow our Insta feed will have seen, I got 2 new books by them. These twin tomes are Ancient Mysteries of Britain and Modern Mysteries of Britain.
Really, really sticking with the Britain theme, deviating very occasionally to go Bigfoot.
Yes. So, but between those, I think I've got all mysteries of Britain covered.
Wow.
Up to the 1970s.
Thank you to the boards.
Yes, but it is to the modern mysteries of Britain that I want to refer this time. And specifically the chapter entitled Ghostly Houses and Vehicles. We're not going to be touching on the vehicles, vehicle fans. It's just going to be the houses today.
Oh, no. Oh, one day.
We'll get to it, don't worry. And the reason the houses particularly caught my eye is because one of the stories cites its source as being Haunted England by, friend of the show, Christina Hole. It's Christina Hole. That's right.
You extended the hole as if someone had just scored in whatever sport this is.
Yes. But this story comes from Somerset. In fact, near somewhere we've talked about before, Cadbury Fort, which we talked about before because I think it's potentially like the house of some fairies in Somerset. In the episode Somerset Fairies, we cover it, but we didn't cover this story. And this story was actually directly related to CNH by a woman who lives in the area, and her family's lived in the area for ages. And a friend visited her. Now, first of all, I've tried to do some fact checking here because it says the friend visited her just after a war. Or in fact, what Christina Hole specifically says, a friend who stayed with her shortly after the end of the last war. Modern Mysteries of Britain by Janet and Colin Board, they say it's the end of World War II. But I looked up when Haunted England by CNH was published, and that was 1940. So I don't think that was World War II. Although there was a second edition in the summer of 1949, and Christina Hole says, the publication of this issue was long delayed by production difficulties. I've made various minor corrections, added to note on Borley Rectory, and entirely remade the bibliography and index. She doesn't mention she heard an excellent story about a ghost house from near Cadbury Fort.
Yeah, but she could have updated which war. No, because then the previous version would have been the next war. That doesn't make any sense. Or the current war.
Shortly after the end of the next yes.
Yeah. That's because that would be the future. Now I understand. Yes, I think you're right. Then it must be the First World War or the Great War.
It was a war. Let's just agree that it was a war.
Well, thank you for trying to fact check that. That was good.
I mean, yeah, but to be honest, the difference of about 30 years is somewhat immaterial, as we will find out. So anyway, this friend has gone for a walk, presumably to get over the war or just war in general. And she sees a very old and beautiful house stood by itself in a field. And now she's done this walk a couple of times before, but has not noticed this big old house.
Okay, now we're cooking. Yes.
I mean, potentially it could have been because of all the brooding, but I think this house is big enough to even cut through the bluest funk. So she sees this house. And the other thing about this house that was particularly notable was the 2 people standing outside. It was a man and a little boy, and they were wearing, Alasdair, ye oldie worldy clothes.
What? Yes. Yeah, I'm picturing that little boy I met in Yorkshire that time when I was filming a thing. Do you remember that story?
No.
I think maybe it's in one of the extras. When I was a film student in Yorkshire,
yeah,
a family approached and they were very weird. And there was a young boy dressed like an olden days farmer, and it was a mother and a girl and a boy, and they sort of sent the boy to talk to us, and they didn't seem to understand what we were doing. And we explained we were just making a film. And I went back and heard him say to his mum, like, they're just taking a picture. It's like he didn't know what a video camera was.
That is spooky. I think
Or it was just Yorkshire.
is
a little hard to say.
a snippet of Yorkshire life.
I'm sure he was wearing braces and a flat cap, at least in my memory. They're probably all dressed like that now because of Peaky Blinders or something.
So he could have been from the future.
Could have been from the future.
And you'd be like, why is his phone so big?
I was up in the northeast a while ago, and you know what fringes are doing there?
No.
Young guys, like sort of 18-year-old guys, fringes,
Right. Go on.
are just incredibly swoopy. They're like a beautifully curved bird's wing.
Oh, really?
Because when I was a kid, you'd have a small, the cool boys would have a small fringe, like curved out, like a little fluffy fringe at the front.
Straight up? Or just...
Well, no, curved like over a Coke can.
Oh, yes. I've seen people use Coke cans to get the exact angle. And like a number 3 or 4 on the rest of their head. So it's like, I've seen a kid with just
so it's
fringe.
just a fringe.
Like
that was the style.
Like a wet look.
At the time.
Comb.
But it's the opposite now. It's the opposite in the northeast. And I've not seen this anywhere else in the country when I was traveling around recently. Yeah, a real swooshy, long, fluffy fringe right at the front. And you'll see sort of four young guys with identical fringes.
Wow.
And do they know that people in the rest of the country are not doing that? I don't know.
I think there was I remember a fad for it, but it was like ages ago when like your One Directions were just starting out.
Is it possible that it just reached Whitby?
That could be it. Because it was like, what's it called? Not your part, but your crown of your hair was like, seemed to be fashionable to have the crown of your head sort of just above you and in front of your ear. If you can imagine, that's where the hair emanated from. Anyway, them days are past. The kid and the old man were both wearing clothes of a bygone era. Ye olde worldy.
Olden days clothes.
The woman couldn't kind of work out exactly when it was, but judging by the clothes, she could tell that the child was of higher rank than the man. But the other weird thing about these two people was that they vanished while she was looking at them.
Whoa! You buried the lead there, James.
I did a bit. I took a little sidebar there. But yeah, they just...
You let me talk about fringes for a while. That probably won't make it into the edit, but still.
Put it back in. It was good. It's good fringe chat. I want to be up to date on the haircuts.
In case you have to go to ground in Whitby and blend in with the teens.
Exactly. Yeah. I'd still be drying it over a Coke can like an absolute fool.
It's under a Coke can, man.
Wait a minute. Is it?
Well, it swoops. It curves upwards now. That's the thing. Rather than downwards. Yes.
Ah. Convex rather than concave?
I suppose it depends on which side you're looking at it from.
Good point. Great. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, these two vanishing people. Back to that. Well, let's get off fringes for a second. They vanished while she was looking at them, and she went back to her host. And now she's quite clever here because she doesn't go in straight away with, them two ghosts. She goes back to the host and says, well, she starts asking about the house in the field over there. It's kind of like in that way where, when you want to gossip about someone, but you don't know if the other person's noticed the thing that you've noticed. So you kind of do a little vocal dance around it. She sort of expected her mate to go, oh, you mean the house with the disappearing boy and man outside of it? But the friend was like, what house? There's no house there. And in fact, she's quoted as saying, no such house, nor had there been one on that site within living memory, which seems a bit much.
Wow.
But it certainly, wraps up all the loose ends on that. So the friend told her like the full story of what she'd seen, and she was sort of trying to find out if there was like stories of a ghost or something around there, but there was nothing. There was no legends as far as they know. And then later the local lady, unsurprisingly, looked into it and found that during the anarchy, do you know what that is, Alasdair?
Is that the Civil War?
Origins, yes. Civil War 0.0, right. Which happened in 1138. To 1153.
Oh, wow. Oh, I see. That's way earlier than the
Civil War that they don't want you to know about. England was kind of quite a lot of France as well at that point. It was Stephen versus Matilda. I think the reason people don't want you to know about it is because it's really confusing. I'll come to it in a minute. But basically, ultimately, Prince Henry, who later became Henry II, was sent to live in the southwest of England for a bit when he was about 9. He was educated in Bristol and also apparently stayed near Cadbury Fort, the exact location of which has been forgotten for centuries. So that's what Sienna H thinks. An interesting point she notes is that the lady concerned was not especially interested in Stephen's reign and had no knowledge that the future Henry II had ever even been in the district. Do you want to know a little bit about the anarchy? I've done a bit of research.
Well, I think I know where I am now because we're talking Cadfile time. So King Stephen becomes king, I think, over the course of Cadfile's many adventures.
Now, it's a particularly confusing point in history because King Stephen, who was Henry I's son, married to a woman called Matilda, and his rival was also called Matilda, which may have been caused a lot of awkward conversations.
That's just way too many tildes, really.
The rival Matilda was also him and his wife Matilda's cousin, because I think there just weren't enough people around there.
Yeah, there was a real shortage in those days.
It was basically there was a war of succession because Billy the Conk, William the Conqueror, friend of the show, I'm not sure, person mentioned on the show.
Yeah, just look into whether he's a good guy or not.
Basically, his successors rattled through the English crown, and there weren't really many firm rules of succession. So Billy the Conk's first son got Normandy, and his second son, William II, Will Electric Conqueror, got England. But Billy II died, and his younger brother, Henry I, succeeded, and he named his daughter Matilda as the heir, which was very unpopular with everyone because, unsurprisingly, they were sexist.
Yeah. Sorry, I thought they just didn't like the name Matilda. I see what you mean. They objected to him naming her as his heir. I thought you meant they objected to him naming her Matilda.
Well, to be honest, it was also became confusing. So maybe some people had that problem. And she was married to Geoffrey of Anjou, which is like the mortal enemy of Normandy. So they didn't like her for that.
It's kind of sauce, isn't it? Is it? Most French places are a sauce of some kind.
Or a feeling. But then when Henry I died, Stephen claimed the throne, and then the anarchy happened. And in the end, it got tidied up because of the Treaty of Wallingford, a.k.a. the Treaty of Winchester, a.k.a. the Treaty of Westminster.
Now, call me an old stickler, but they are different places.
They're all different places. The only thing they got in common is they all begin with W. So I think...
Right. So what's happened there?
It feels like someone was entrusted with some information and they forgot most of it. But I knew it was a W. Is it Wimbledon? Could it be Wimbledon? West somewhere?
It's Whitby. You can tell from the fringes.
And according to that treaty, Stephen agreed to adopt Matilda's son, Henry, also called Henry, which must have been easy for names because he was basically adopted by another woman called Matilda. But actually thinking about it, he would have just called her mum. And Henry II was that ghost boy.
Right. I mean, that hasn't cleared it up at all.
Not at all. For context, Henry II was the first Plantagenet. He's Richard the Lionheart's dad and also Evil King John's dad from Robin Hood, the cartoon. But most importantly, he did not die as a child. So I don't know why the ghost is there.
Yeah. That kind of spoils it a little bit. I think they struck me as being more likely to be fairies.
Do you think so?
As a skeptic, I think they're fairies.
Okay. I just want to tack this in here. This all happened quite near the towns King Camel and Queen Camel.
King Camel and Queen Camel are towns in Somerset.
Near Cadbury Fort. Didn't even look up why. And then, Alasdair, I've got another little tale of a ghost house from the southwest. So this happened in the 1960s on the eastern edge of Dartmoor near Haytor. Ruth St. Ledger Gordon including details of this in her book, The Witchcraft and Folklore of Dartmoor. This is again referenced in Janet and Colin Board's Modern Mysteries of Britain, 100 Years of Strange Events.
I think you don't have to say the subtitle every time, but I appreciate that you do. I respect that. I bet Janet and Colin respect that. And this place is called Haytor.
Haytor, yes.
Haytor, as in gonna hate.
Exactly. But it's Haytor like a sort of like a tor stone, but made out of hay.
Like T-O-R, Tor.
Yeah. Haytor. It's like the one, there was that one, then there was Styx Tor, and then they started making them out of stone and the wolf got really annoyed.
I believed you for a second there.
I led you a merry dance. And she published the story of this cottage that vanished. And then she received a visit from a surveyor for the Ordnance Survey who'd been working in the Haytor area. And this is what she reported. Looking down on this terrain from a high vantage point to check his map, he noticed one cottage that he had apparently missed. Smoke was rising from the chimneys and clothes blowing on the line. To remedy the omission, he pinpointed and walked down to the exact spot. He tooth-combed the vicinity, but could find no cottage or trace of any building. Encountering a lady exercising her dog, he inquired where this cottage might be. Her reply surprised him. She too had seen it once, but had never been able to locate it again.
Ooh, very spooky.
Yeah.
And just to be clear, she was exercising her dog, not exorcising her dog.
It's spelt with an E, but again, it could have been a mistranslation.
Could have been. Bit spooky.
Yeah. I don't think...
The power of Christ compels you to fetch.
To do your doings here. Your mother chews socks in hell.
That's a compliment to a dog, though, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think the tooth combing the vicinity seems a little bit much. I mean, you don't need to tooth comb to tell if a house is there.
No.
That you've seen.
Is it a very hilly area? Could it have been obscured by a hillock?
I don't know, but the Ordnance Survey guy, he's going to know his stuff.
They're pretty serious, aren't they? The Ordnance Survey guys.
Unless it's like a real life, one of those fake streets that they put in to stop people like copying maps and stuff.
Well, what's the name for that? We better find out the name for that.
Trap Street.
A trap street. Yeah, that's a cool idea, isn't it?
It is a fun idea. It's good for a pub quiz, isn't it? It's a good bit of knowledge to know.
And I feel like I might have pronounced Ordnance Survey as Ordinance Survey earlier. And I don't want to get emails. I just want to say I know it's Ordnance, not Ordinance.
But yeah, maybe it's like a real life trap street, that cottage.
Ooh, yeah.
I don't know to what end, but maybe it just traps people.
I'm telling you, this is the work of fairies.
Yeah, it does sound quite fairy rather than haunting.
It's got fairy written all over it.
I think it does. So there you go, Alasdair. There's a couple of haunting houses.
Thank you very much. The haunting houses of the Southwest, the most popular and mainstream direction. Do you think that's the direction, One Direction we're talking about?
It must have been.
It's the direction the fringes all point. If you just shake up those kids, eventually they all align.
They do, yeah.
The fringes align. I feel like I have been making fun of people's hair a bit too much in this episode. I feel like people in glass houses. That might explain how a house could vanish, though, if it were made of glass.
Oh, yeah.
You could see it from one angle, but not from another.
Exactly.
Still, a sort of palace of glass, fairy business.
I mean,
obvious fairy business.
So, Alasdair, shall we score?
Yes, please.
First up, names.
Well,
yeah,
we had a lot of fun with friend of the show, Christina Hole. It's Christina Hole.
Didn't we just?
Imagining our Lord Jesus Christ if he was in a well. However, that name has come up before. It feels a little bit like triple dipping or quintuple, sextuple dipping at this point.
A dodecadipple.
I'm back on board.
Yeah. But we did also, I mean, just as an aside, we had BHM's Big Hairy Monsters.
BHM's Big Hairy Monsters, yes.
And the Bigfoot Casebook.
Yeah, some good book titles, that's true, yes. And the names we've got for queens, everything from Matilda to also Matilda.
To Empress Matilda, I think she ended up being, because she married one of the Matildas, I think the one that was fighting Stephen rather than married to Stephen. She married like the head of the Holy Roman Empire or whatever it was called.
Wow.
Whatever it had rebadged itself as.
You versus the Matilda they tell you not to worry about.
Yeah.
Wow. King Stephen. Now that is not a cool name. It's just King Stephen.
I think William II was known as Rufus.
Oh, did he have red hair?
I don't know. Maybe he did. Is that a thing?
What Rufus means red.
Does it?
I think so.
Oh, maybe that then. So, yeah, keep your Matildas close and your Matildas closer.
Yep. Yes, great point. Lots of good names and haunting houses I really liked. However, I don't think I can give it a proper 5 or a 4 because the more I heard, the more I was convinced that no ghostly business was at play and that we were dealing with the Fae folk. So I don't actually think it's a haunting. So I'm going to say 3.
This is names. I think you've revealed your hand for supernatural.
I may have tipped my hand for supernatural. That's true.
Wait a minute. What about King and Queen Camel?
All right, 4.
Yes.
4 for King Camel. 2 towns that sound like cigarettes. Yes.
Okay, then. I got a feeling I know which way you're going to go then. Supernatural.
Well, James, I think fairies are supernatural.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you're the one who only scores ghosts high and scores everything else low.
Yes.
I love fairies. I think they're much spookier than ghosts. And I think we're dealing with two lots of fairies here. It feels like 3 would be the correct number of stories for an episode, though. So,
I mean, coming down Cadbury Fort on Midsummer's Eve, someone was driving and they saw
delivering an emergency telegrammatic.
Yeah, breaking news. The bright lights were the tips of lances with flames on them, and it was a troop of armed warriors. And at the head rode a mounted man of great stature and imposing appearance. And that was. Oh, no, wait a minute. This was seen by the woman, the hostess from earlier.
The same. Oh, she's just become less reliable.
Oh, damn. Yeah, she basically saw probably King Arthur's ghost. Because it's King Arthur's Hunting Causeway is the name of the road.
The road is called King Arthur's Hunting Causeway.
Yeah. I don't think that Ordinance Survey guy would have been very happy with that at all. Midsummer's Eve?
Yeah, okay. Including that one. I'm going to say it's a 4.
Yes.
I really like the first one. And I've been very generous there, so expect me to crack down capriciously like a fairy would. I've given you a little gift. You've tasted of my banquet.
Okay, but next category is, and I presume this made the edit, is people in glass houses.
Okay, because you shouldn't throw stones, but also a glass house could become invisible. Is that your theory?
I think so, yes. If that gets me points.
Okay. And how do the people who vanished, how did they do that? I don't think you've thought this category through at all.
I think they had a glass outfit. People in glass pajamas.
Right. Should really not move.
Yes, should stand still now.
Stay still and call a friend.
Yeah.
If you're in glass pajamas.
Definitely don't drop and roll.
Oh no. You're going to have to hope it's that fireproof glass that goes into beads.
Forgot about the people involved. Thought it was just buildings that would vanish. They would vanish if you looked at them from another angle. But also people would have mentioned that they were probably made of glass rather than
they would have mentioned that. And they might not vanish from another angle. They'd just be less visible. So I'm very flattered that you came up with a category based on something I said. And I'm even more delighted to give it such a low score. That is not an acceptable explanation for what we just heard. 1 out of 5.
Okay. All right. Okay. In which case, my final category is don't be a hater and don't look for it. It's not there.
Okay. You've kind of crammed 2 things into one category there.
I have crammed 2 things into one there. So, but I'm not
going to be a hater.
Follow the advice.
Yes.
Of the first half.
Well, it feels quite pointed after I just gave you 1. So, okay, yeah. What's not there? Those houses aren't there because they're not there.
Not there.
That's 2 solid examples of it not being there. Don't look for King Arthur's
horseshoe. I think there's like a silver horseshoe or something disappeared. And the Crown of England, the logic in the succession of the Crown of England at that time in history. Do not look for it. It is not there during the anarchy, which is evidently the name of that period of history.
Well, I'm going to say it's 4, and it would have been 5 were there not so many Matildas, because the likelihood of you finding a Matilda if you were looking for one was high.
I mean, yes. If you would chuck a stone, you'd hit a Matilda and probably a glass house as well. So it's unadvisable. I think they named their kid Matilda as well.
What?
I think
a third Matilda?
Yeah, the third Matilda has entered the story. What a late breaking Matilda.
So it's a 4.
Yeah. There there we go. How haunting were those houses?
They were very haunting.
What would people do if they wanted to come and see us record one of these episodes live?
They could buy tickets to see us perform at West Norwood Cemetery on the 11th of October.
At 8 p.m?
At 8 p.m. indeed.
And if you would like to listen to bonus material from Loremen and get ad-free episodes and join the Lore Folk Discord, then join us at patreon.com/LoremenPod. And thank you, Joe, for editing it. And thank you, the listener, for listening. And hey, give us a 5 stars on your podcast place where you get them.
It actually does help.
It does actually help, it turns out. I'm still down here. It's not a trick. We know you, Jesus, is probably a trick.
It's one of your Jesus tricks, isn't it, Jesus? No.